cut from here and here. Okay, so now it's become into 1 2 3 parts. Okay, now I will draw these parts. Okay, now 3 parts is there. So this is nothing but the fragments of planaria, right? So parent's body is divided into 2 or more fragments, and now each fragments divided each fragments have capability to form a new independent individual. For example, here, okay, so they form a new body. Here you can see they form a new body. Okay, and here you can see okay, so from these 3 different parts, 3 independent individuals are formed. Okay, that is called as daughter planaria. Daughters planaria, and this process is known as fragmentation. Now you understand this process of fragmentation. So fragmentation is what? These pieces of this body, parent's body, have capacity to grow and to form a new independent individual, new organism. Okay, this type of asexual reproduction is known as fragmentation. The next type of asexual reproduction is regeneration, that we will see. So next type of asexual reproduction is regeneration. Okay, this is the 4th type. So regeneration. What is mean by regeneration? So regeneration is this ability to form a new organism from this body part cut, or we can say the broken part generates a new organism. That is called as regeneration. Okay, so what do you mean by regeneration? Here is the ability to form a new organism from where? From the body part, from the body parts cut, okay, or broken part, or we can say this broken parts generate a new organisms. Okay, that process is known as regeneration. What do you mean by regeneration? Regeneration is ability to form a new organism from the body parts that cut, or we can say the broken part that generate into a new organism is known as regeneration. In another words, I can define the process of regeneration is just like that. The regeneration in another way I can define the process of regeneration is that this regeneration process in which the missing part, yes, I can say this is missing part, the missing part of the organism is repaired, okay, by the proliferation The proliferation of cells. That process is known as regeneration. In two ways, I can explain the process of regeneration. Okay, where the regeneration is occurs in which organism? So it occurs in Hydra. It also occurs in planarians. Not only it occurs in planarian, it's also occurs in sponges, then platyhelminthes, not only that, it also occurs in lizard, you know that. Okay, so these are a few examples in that organisms the regeneration processes occurs. So how this occurs, I will tell. Okay, suppose I am taking example of Hydra, a very common example. Okay, this is an adult Hydra. What is this? Is a adult Hydra. Now this adult Hydra is amputated. Here you can see amputation. Amputation. So what do you mean by amputation? Amputation means surgically cutting of limbs. Okay, what is it? Is a surgically cutting of limb. This is known as amputation. So you can see in this diagram, you can say amputation is occurs. Okay, so because of this amputation, this Hydra get divided into two parts. This is one and this is second part. This is the first and this is second part. Okay, now each of this part have ability to proliferate the cells and to form a new organism. Okay, this is, you can see, and here is also. Okay, it's nothing but the two, from the two different parts the two new organism is formed. That is called as regeneration in Hydra. Okay, fine. Now next process is known as spore formation. We will see the next process of a sexual reproduction, that is called as sporulation, or we also known as spore formation. Okay, so what do you mean by sporulation? So here the sporulations occurs in spores. Okay, so first, what do you mean by spores first? Okay, so spores are nothing but, during the process sporulation, spores are occurs. Sporulation occurs. This occurs by where this sporulation is occurs. Sporulation occurs in spores. Okay, so spores are nothing but it's tiny single-celled, thin-walled structure. That structure is known as spores. What is spores? Is a tiny single-celled thin-walled structure that are spores and that are extremely resistant to the environment, extreme, and that are extremely resistant to environment, extreme. Okay, where during the unfavorable conditions some organisms have ability to produce spores. Okay, and the spores are tiny single cells thin wall structure. That structure is known as spores. Okay, that is the khasiyat of the spores, right? Now you know that all this the spores form new organisms. So whatever the spores are there, what is the role of the spore? That spores form a new organism. whatever new individual, and it's generally common that spore formation means the organism that produces spores are generally common in common in class Monera, Protista, fungi and algae. Okay, so sporulations occurs in Monera, it occurs in Protista, it occurs in fungi as well as algae. Okay, so what will happen? So as we know that sporulation is another mode of sexual reproduction. Okay, here is the sporulations involve the specific reproductive part. It involves specific reproductive parts. Okay, such as I am talking about rhizopus. Okay, such as hyphae in rhizopus. I am taking example of rhizopus. Okay, such as hyphae in rhizopus, and that rhizopus also have a lob on a stick that I will show you how stick structure. Okay, in also the rhizopus. Okay, that are involved in a process of reproduction, or we can say yes, sporulation. Okay, so here the specific parts, the specific reproductive parts involved in the process of sporulation, that are hyphae in rhizopus and blob on a stick structures is also occurs in rhizopus. Okay, first of all I will draw the structure of it. Okay, so you can see this structure, that's called as hyphae. This and this structure is known as hyphae, and this structure is known as sporangia. And inside the spore you can see small ball shaped structure that is called as spores. What is a here you can see the spores burst. Okay, so I get here a bursting of sporangia, and you can see so many small tiny structures are dispersed. This is called as dispersing spores. Okay, and this is the structure is known as spore formation in rhizopus. So here we can see. Okay, here in rhizopus, this is the structure of rhizopus. In rhizopus there are specific reproductive two parts are there. One is called as hyphae. You can see this and this. This is called as hyphae. And another one, you can see this bob shaped structure. One small structure is present on the stick, that is called as sporangia. These are two important reproductive part of this rhizopus where the sporulation is occurs. Okay, what again? This organism such as fungi make this spore that can be grown complete new individual when dispersed from this fruiting body. Under the unfavorable condition, the spores are formed. So when they get a spore, a favorable condition, what will happen? You can see this fruiting body that is called as sporangia. It's burst, and all these small spores are dispersed. Okay, and these spores get this favorable conditions. So whatever the number of spores are dispersed, that number of new organisms are produced. New organisms are offsprings. Okay, so I can say that the organism, generally this is rhizospores, okay, fungi, right? So organisms such as fungi make the spores, okay, and that can grow into a complete new individuals when they are dispersing from this fruiting body. Okay, now the different types of motile and non-motile spores are produced by the algae and fungi. Okay, different type algae and fungi. Different types of spores are produced by algae and fungi. The algae produce motile spores and fungi produce non-motile spores. This algae produced motile spore is called as zoospores. Okay, and this fungi produce non-motile spore is known as that is called as conidia, right? That is called as conidia. Okay, so algae produce motile spores, that's called as zoospores, and fungi produce non-motile spore, that is called as conidia. In which organism algae zoospores are produced? This example is called as Chlamydomonas, and here is called as penicillin. Okay, so these are the types where the spores are produced. But one more important point is that the spores forms can be of following mean. There are different types of spores or forms. Okay, so here I mentioned the most important point is that the spores form can be of mean type that are follows. Here I am writing the spores formed can be following the main types. First is called as it's a pseudopodiospores. Okay, this is the first type of spores. Okay, what is pseudopodia is nothing but with a fine pseudopodia, and it generally occurs in amoeba. Okay, second type is called as zoospore, that already we discussed. Zoospore are motile spores. Why they are motile? Because they are flagella. It's a motile with flagellate, and this generally occurs in Chlamydomonas. Okay, third is called as conidia, that already we discussed. Conidia also non-motile spores, and these non-motile spores are produced by penicillin. Fourth is called as sporangia, that also we discussed. Sporangiosspores. Okay, and that is also non-motile spores. An example is Rhizopus. And fifth and last is called as gemulate, that is called as internal buds, and that generally occurs in sponges. Okay, so these are the 5 different types of spores are produced by different organisms. First is called pseudopodias. Okay, pseudopodias means they have a spine, fine, small pseudopodia that occurs in amoeba. Zoospore. Zoospores are motile with this flagella. That's why they are called as zoospores, and this generally occurs in algae, that is called as Chlamydomonas. Next type of spores is called Cornidea. These are non-motile. These are occurs in fungi, that's called as penicillium. Next structure of spores is known as sporangiospores, that we already discussed. Example that are also a non-motile and that are seen in rhizopus. Then last but not least is gemelli, that's called as internable, and that occurs in a sponges. Okay, now what are I will rub this things so you can see. Here. So here I am draw the structure. Here I will explain the pseudopodia spores. Okay, so what will happen, under a unfavorable condition, I'm talking about the spore relation in amoeba. You might be confused. The binary feature also occurred, multiple feature and spore relation. Both the 3 asexual modes are occurring in amoeba, depend on the situation. Okay, so what will happen here, under unfavorable condition, under unfavorable conditions. Okay, so what will happen unfavorable condition, this amoeba withdraw its pseudopodia. And you know what is, okay, this structure is known as pseudopodia, right? So under the unfavorable condition, what will happen, this amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia and secretes a 3-layered hard covering, or this is known as cyst, around itself. Okay, once the amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia, it secretes a 3-layer hard covering that is called as cyst around itself. This phenomena of formation of cysts, okay, this phenomenon is known as encystation. Okay, so this is during unfavorable. So when this favorable conditions returns, when favorable condition written, then what will happen, you can see this encysted amoeba. This encysted amoeba divides by multiple fission, and we already discussed the multiple fission. Okay, you can see this structure. Okay, so this is multiple ways. So this ancestral amoeba divide multiple fissions and produce many minute amoebae. Okay, and this minute number of amoebae is also known as pseudopodiospores. That is also called as pseudopodiospores. Okay, after that, what will happen? This cyst wall burst out and spores are liberated from there. surrounding environment, or we can say surrounding media, right? Okay. And this, once they got a favorable surrounding medium to grow into many amoebae. Okay, that is called as sporulation in amoeba. So now we'll discuss we already discussed the sporulations in amoeba, right? Now we will see how the gemmular formation is occurred. That already I discussed with you all, but once again I will discuss how the gemmular formation is occurs. Okay, so here we study is not working. Gemmular formation, and where the gemmular formation is occurs, we already say is a part of sporulation. It occurs in sponges. Okay, so here first of all I will draw the structure. Oh my god. Okay, this type of structures I draw. You can draw the structure like that. Okay. Now, this is called as micropyle. You can see this opening, that is called as micropyle. You can see this is called as inner membrane, and this is called as monaxons tube. Spicules. And this is all about gemmular formation. Okay, so formation of gemmular takes place by where it takes place by the aggregation of archaeocytes. Okay, it's formed nothing but the aggregation of archaeocytes. Okay, then you can see a layer of amebocytes. You can see this layer. Okay, a layer of amebocytes secretes a very hard chitinous membrane around this archaeocytes. Okay, so gemmular formation takes place by this aggregation of archaeocytes, and this layer that are present around this archaeocyte secrete one hard chitinous membrane around this archaeocytes. Okay, so gemmular formation is nothing but the formation of internal buds. I already told you. Gemmular formation means the formation of internal buds. to overcome. Why these internal buds? To overcome unfavorable condition. To overcome unfavorable conditions. Okay. So on return of these favorable conditions, then what will happen? This gemule, you can see this hatch. On return of this favorable conditions, this gemule hatch and develops into new individual, and that occurs in sponges. A special example of sponges are spongilla. These are the best example of sponge. Okay, this is called as gemule formation. Okay, then we study the zoospores. Zoospore is nothing but a motile flagellated cells. How it's drawn? So you can see how to draw the zoospores here. Zoospores in Chlamydomonas. Okay. That is the structure of zoospores. Actually, zoospore is like okay. So that is the zoospores in Chlamydomonas. Okay, and zoospores are motile because they are flagellated. Okay, and then we see this conida. The structure of conida is just like that. I will show you how to draw it.